initiative. So the title of my lecture is Climate Change and Carbon Neutrality. So that's related with this development initiative. You know the reason. So to tackle with climate change, to realize carbon neutrality is very closely related to development. So hopefully, my next half an hour lecture could give you some information and help for your future. Can you understand me? Okay, my English? So I'm going to talk 4 parts. The first one, I would like to talk a little bit about from the weather extremes to describe climate change is a current and urgent crisis right now. Not only long in the future, it is right now. Second, I would like to summarize some information of the countries all over the world who have the plan, strategy to deal with climate change. So I would say that carbon neutrality has become a global consensus. Thirdly, I would give some information about China's activities, actions on dealing with climate change and conduct the strategy for low carbon development. Finally, I would like to encourage our young people, young generation, to shoulder the task for the human being. So now we are in the end of 2022. However, to me, last year, 2021, is just as if yesterday. So we suffered so much from weather extremes. Here, I just gave some collection of the famous events, famous disasters, catastrophes. So if you remember, globally, if you talk about the damage from climate change, one big example is about Lytton from Canada. So last July, in the last 3 days, in June, Lytton suffered 3 high temperature days. By 29th, the temperature reached 49.6 degrees centigrade. And unfortunately, the next day, there's a wildfire, and the whole village was destroyed. So it's always regarded as an example for the biggest damage from climate change. And then such kind of problems and disasters not far from us. So I think everybody cannot stay outside. So in July 16th, there's a so-called Millennium Flood in Germany. So when Premier Chancellor Merkel visited the area, I think she was very much astonished. And that, as far as I remember, he said that she could not find a single word in German vocabulary to describe the severity of this disaster. So you can see from the picture. And then it is not far from China. So in July 20th, Zheng, the capital city of Henan province, suffered a big rainfall. And there's a lot of stories. So the subways was blocked, etc. A lot of people died. And what is special is that in 1 hour, the rainfall is one third of the total year. Normal total year rainfall. And then 3 days, in 3 days, the rain reached the record for the whole year. in normal days. And then I also show some wildfire from the United States to December. So California is suffering from wildfire for a long time, that's famous. But by that, we are not peaceful by the end of the year. So in December 30th, in Colorado, just a big fire. That's what people regarded as related with climate change. So to me, I think maybe many of you share the same feeling. 2021 is as of yesterday. So at that time, we hoped we can have a peaceful, happy New Year for 2022. However, reality has shattered our wishes completely. So although we haven't finished the year, but 2022 is no doubt an even worse year, unfortunately. So around us, so it's June and July. Officially, there are more than 150,000 times of high temperature warning. And among them, 2,000 warned the temperature could reach 40 degrees centigrade or even higher. So this is a very hot summer. And from this picture, you can see that half of China is firing. And by August 23rd, the Central Meteorological Observatory has announced 12 consecutive days for high temperature, more than. So the red alert means that within next 24 hours, just temperature higher than 40 degrees centigrade. Luoyang is the largest freshwater lake in China, so it's very big. However, we can see this very rare site. So this is the so-called Millennium Stone Island. Luoxingtun is fully exposed. You can see its bottom. It is very rare feeling for many people. And then is the landscape of the tree of the earth is also very ironic. And in this summer in China, what touches the heartstrings of every Chinese is from Sichuan. Because the whole Sichuan province was suffering high temperatures continuously. This province is famous, is celebrated for its hydraulic power generation. This province has more than 80 gigawatts hydraulic power capacity and around 220 gigawatt coal power. And normally it exports electricity to other provinces. But in the summer, normally there should be full of water or even flood. But most likely because of climate change, there's no water at all. So the water coming is only 40% of the normal year. So the water reservoir is dried to the bottom. Then people have no power to use. So most of the industry are stopped. And it says that around television or media, you can see that every kilowatt hour in Sichuan today is hard won. You can always see the word 让电于民, that means give power to the people, to the residential use, rather than for production. So this the whole China is concerned about that. But China is not the single example. Globally, many people are suffering from climate change. So some, as I showed the picture, so some parts of Africa has suffered from drought for a long time. According to the report from UNCCD, it said the statistics is that of the 134 droughts that occurred between 2000 and 2019, about 70 occurred in East Africa. So we can imagine that what suffering people are experiencing. And in Europe, in the rich Europe, there's also a problem. So I have many examples, but one impressive example is in Switzerland, in the Alps. So the Switzerland is famous for its milk and the cows. Then, because of drought, military, army have to use their helicopter to transport water from bottom of the mountain to save the cows from the death of cows from thirst. So this is very pictorial, I would say. Is that the right word? Pictorial. And what makes things worse is that scientists believe summer droughts could become the norm in Western Europe. They are not used to that normally. 4 of the past 5 summers have been extremely dry due to the effect of climate change. But this is not the end. What impressed me most is about these hunger stones. So, for the first time I have this knowledge, but I can imagine that. Similarly, in China, we did the same thing. So, in the whole Europe, in these 2 famous rivers there are a lot of stones are called hunger stones. They are regarded as a ominous symptom to the people, to the human being, to the world. There's one oldest, I don't know how to writing or sculpture on one stone. It's written in German. Wenn du mich siehst, dann weine. Weine, I forgot if I guess. But it means when you see me, you are destined to cry. This is the ominous symbol to Europe and to the world. And what makes things worse is in September we have another problem. So in Pakistan, 1/3 of Pakistan's territory was submerged by flooding. So deadly flooding in Pakistan destroyed homes and then decimated crops in what the country's officials say is an unprecedented climate disaster, affecting an estimated 30 million people, or about 15% of the whole population. So when the report was published, so about 1/3 of the country was still submerged. That's the Tuesday when satellite data from European Space Agency mapped the extent of the deluge. I don't know how to say that. So these are the examples, but we need to believe in science. So if you look at the report, the science report from IPCC, the working group, the one gave the climate science. It is stated that hot temperature extremes over land will happen more frequently. So if we assume the frequency as 1 for the pre-industrial period, now the temperature, average temperature, atmospheric temperature has reached 1.09. This means the frequency for this 10-year event has increased by 3 times. And if we can realize the long-term target as 2 degree temperature, 2 degrees centigrade increase by the end of this century, the frequency could increase by 6 times. But if it's higher than 2 degrees centigrade, then the problem will be, I think, imaginary. And then this is for the 10-year event. But for the 50-year event, the frequency and the severity is even higher. The same thing happens to the heavy precipitation over land, and also for these agricultural and ecological droughts in dry areas and regions. So this is science that told us if we don't do right thing, that's our future. Climate change, I would say that climate change is not far away. It is not only a long-term and deeper crisis or challenge, it is current and urgent crisis right now. So our future, our common future, is within the hand of human being. The future, what will happen in the future depends on our own choice and our own actions. So this information I would like to deliver in the first part. And then second part is about global initiative about climate change. So why we have climate change? What are the scientific mechanisms? So one analog is like this greenhouse effect. So in winter, if you are within the greenhouse, even outside temperature is cold, but you feel warm inside. Why? Because sunlight gets inside, but it cannot be reflected completely outside. So some energy stays inside, then keep you warm. So this is a mechanism, principle of greenhouse effect. Then for global warming, the mechanism is analog, similar. You can see that. So the greenhouse gas plays as a film, transparent film. So sunlight can get inside easily without absorption and the radiation outside. However, the long wavelength radiation by the Earth cannot go outside to the universe completely. This film stops them, they keep them within the atmospheric and then finally come back to the Earth. Then before we emitted so much carbon dioxide, the energy is balanced. Inside and outside us are equal. But because this anthropogenic greenhouses were emitted to the atmosphere, so the greenhouse effect becomes strengthened. So it's just like this. We have more energy kept within the Earth. This makes the Earth become fever, warm up. So this is the greenhouse effect. Then the main contents for this anthropogenic greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. That's why we want to reduce carbon dioxide. It's not, we don't want to reduce all carbon dioxide. It's artificial ones, anthropogenic generated carbon dioxide. So this is why we use this word, carbon neutrality. Now what's carbon neutrality? I'll give you the atmosphere balance of carbon dioxide in and outside, in and out, are described in this picture. The human being society emits 40 billion tons carbon dioxide, one direction, without absorption at all. And then our nature, our land, and our ocean absorbed about 20 billion carbon dioxide netly. This means about 20 billion tons dioxide are left accumulated within our atmosphere. Then they cause extra greenhouse effect. So this is the current carbon dioxide balance. Then what's carbon neutrality? We are determined to decrease the emission of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere from our production, from our living. So the balance is that human emissions minus extra absorption from natural system equals to the amount of carbon dioxide accumulated within the atmosphere. The carbon neutrality means that we want to reduce our emissions to make this balance realize zero. That means if we reach carbon neutrality, the total amount of greenhouse gas or carbon dioxide will keep stable. So it will decrease the trend for temperature increase. We hope by this way we can realize our target to limit the temperature increase by the end of the century to be lower than 2 degrees centigrade, or even to be lower than 1.5 degrees centigrade. So because the damage, the risk of climate change, so globally, countries and people have realized the consensus of carbon neutrality through green development. As I mentioned, so the famous document is Paris Agreement. So Paris Agreement has set up the long-term target by the end of the century. That's 2 degrees centigrade and 1.5 degrees centigrade. And the Paris Agreement also described the pathways, the trajectories for our carbon emissions to be limited. So that means to realize the carbon peak of the global carbon peak as soon as possible. And then to realize, to achieve a balance between anthropogenic emissions by sources and the removals by sinks of greenhouse gases in the second half of this century. So it's not only described the target, but also described the trajectory. And we need to do this through green development, just as UN Secretary General Guterres mentioned in the Mother Earth Day 2020. Human beings should united to recover better together. This means we need green development. So that's the rhythm of this global Development Initiative. That's the kernel. Up to now, more than 130 countries have announced their pledges for carbon neutrality. This covers 88% of global carbon dioxide emissions and 90% of economy, total economy, and covers 85% of population. That's why I'm saying that's global consensus. And many countries have their legislations. So for example, for the EU, the UK, United States, and Deutschland, Germany. So they all prescribe they pledge to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. Only Germany has a pledge that they want to realize carbon neutrality by 2045. Here, I just quoted the special report of IPCC on 1.5 degree. It mentioned that it used the most advanced model and give the recommendation that in the model pathways with no or limited overshoot, which is overshoot of result of 1.5 degree centigrade. Global night anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions declined by about 45% from 2010 levels by 2030. So we need to decrease 45% by 2030, reaching net zero around 2050. So with overshoot or not, if we want to keep 1.5 within reach, we need the whole globe should reach carbon neutrality together by 2050. So if we believe this, then you can see the problem. The most advanced countries, the richest countries, the most responsible countries who emitted historical carbon dioxide during their industrialization period and cause our problem right now. They announced that they want to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. You see the problem? So I think you agree with me. They should not realize that earlier if we want to do 1.5 degree really. So developing countries needs development. So, and their capacity is much weaker than the developed countries. So these countries a little bit earlier, and the other countries try to catch up, then the world could possibly reach 1.5, keep the 1.5 degree within reach, only in this way. To understand me, so developed countries needs to be more ambitious. Then I think it's not only in China, but globally. I think there's a worry to tackle with climate change could affect economic development. So there's concerns and worries because many people believe that. So yes, we need to deal with climate change, but that will slow down or damage our economy. So that's very beliefs of very countries and many people. So to this end, Uni has done a good job. So they published their long-term strategy called Green New Deal. So in this Green New Deal, that's the document EU submitted to the United Nations as their long-term development strategy. So besides, they described the targets and the policy measures within in the sector like energy, industry, building, transportation, agriculture, ecology, and the environment. They have overall targets. That means, so this strategy, their strategy aims to transform the EU into a fair and prosperous society with a modern, resources efficient, and competitive economy, where there are no net emissions of greenhouse gases in 2050, and where economic growth is decoupled from resources use. This means sustainable development, to leave the same space and chances for our next generations with the current generation people. So this means this strategy is not merely climate strategy. It is a transforming strategy for the whole society, to turn the whole society to a new direction. Similarly, US also fortunately made their own strategy. So after the Trump administration, so the Biden administration have published their long-term strategy to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. That's not enough. I talked with a lot of US experts. So US is the most responsible for historical emissions, but they have made progress compared to the last administration. Last administration quitted from Paris Agreement and affect the whole process, global process, heavily. And so to realize that target, so Biden administration mentioned they need to do 5 zeros in power generation, in mobility, in zero emission vehicles, buildings, and manufacturers. So for the net zero power, they plan to reach that by 2035. That's a very ambitious target, I would say. And they want to do that through innovation. So you can see that after Trump administration, Biden's government was very determined to deal with climate change. And although there are some failures in legislation, but US has made a big progress recently. Legislation success. So they approved the Inflation Reduction Act 2022 in the last August. So they determined to, in the next 10 years, to invest $369 billion to do a lot of things, to provide tax credits, grants, and loans for the PV panel producers, to utilities, to replace their infrastructure, and to improve rural communities, and to give tax credits to consumers to use electrical vehicles, etc. So historically, that's the largest investment. And I just give some reference number, but China has already invested $380 billion in clean energy development. The US is a plan in the next 10 years. Whether that can be reachable, that's not certain yet. But China has made investment in clean energy larger than the US planned number. Even though we are very happy about that. And the famous climate czar, 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 is that correct? Gina McCarthy, that's a lady, former administrator of EPA. She said that she saw businesses no longer see climate action as a driving job losses. So the attitude is changing. That's what she observed. And then she said that she is very happy about United States is now becoming a magnet for clean energy innovation and investment. So she finished this job and left her position. And he said that the road is still long and the progress will be uneven. But as I leave my post in the White House, I'm optimistic that America is now poised to lead this decisive decade. So what are the spirit? What are the principle, mentality behind this investment and this legislations? One article impressed me is an article from Financial Times. That's an article published after COP26. It says that UK, United Kingdom, unconsciously and collectively completed the education on the necessity of industrial transformation. The consensus on saving the Earth was basically reached. So that's our worry. So I think everybody on the Earth, everybody worries about that. However, the British government has made a commitment to achieve net zero by 2050 and is committed to becoming a national benchmark of the upgrading and transformation of the global green industrial revolution. What's the motivation for this? Because the change is necessary. But for this change, how to do that? That's the key part. So UK government thinks that the transformation of industry and lifestyle needs to gather government political forces. So that's a risk, that's competition. You need to gather government political forces, capital market forces, scientific and technological forces, and the people's environmental protection ideas. It is a race between countries, between the commercial institutions, between scientific institutions, and between national consciousness. UK want to do that. So I think you can understand, US also want to do that. So it's not, so here is the summary of my realization. So carbon neutral is not merely a dedicated strategy to tackle climate change. It is more a comprehensive strategy for economic and social development with the aim to command height of green economy. Historically, industrial revolution happened in UK. The UK leads the world for hundreds of years, or more. So here is analog. This green industrial revolution is in analog. Therefore, developed countries, without exception, I would say that, pursue the green and the low carbon transformation of the whole economic society. So that's something we cannot change. We need to do that, follow that. But we not do that merely in one dimension. That's the risk. That's the economic competition. This is what I want to share with you. And the third part, I would like to give some information about China's thinking, China's activity. So China adheres to green and low carbon development. So this is the famous picture in China. So our president pledged China's objectives and resolutions in 2020, September 22nd. That's very famous in China now. Since then, so we aim to have carbon dioxide emission peak before. So it's not by. So China's target is not to peak carbon dioxide emission by 2030, So that's before 2030, and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060, 10 years earlier than the global Paris Agreement target. So as a developing country, we strive to do our best to keep pace with the global target. And since then, carbon peaking and carbon neutrality has become a cross-sectional topics, cross-sectional target across Chinese society. So everybody, I mean, even the children knows this word, dual carbon, 双碳. That become a cross-sectional target and the topic in China society. So our target, our goals is to converge our international agenda and the domestic agenda. So I say that China's climate target is underpinned by national and international goals and agendas. So we try to coincidentally to do them in coincidence. So why should China take the dual carbon road? So I write something and then translate it into English. So as I mentioned that on the general trend of global joint response to climate change and achieving sustainable development, so that's our common target. The strategy adopted by all countries in the world, I would say most developed countries, is the economic and social green and low carbon transformation. So it is not merely to deal with energy or deal with, so we're trying to transform the whole economy. I think that's an experience from developed countries. So in fact, it is a green industrial revolution and the green development competition, as I described by this, as stated in this Financial Times article. Its significance is comparable to all previous industrial revolutions in history. And the leaders will command a leading position on the world stage for a long time. To this end, countries around the world are investing in green infrastructure and green industries. So that's why US invests so much money. So everybody wants to keep leadership, keep in the front. So the latest example is this US investment. So in essence, this is a competition to occupy the economic commanding heights under the common goals of tackling climate change and promoting sustainable development. So this is my understanding of why it should do that. And China is just benefiting from our previous development. One can see that from the year 2005 to 2021, our economy increased by 5 times. By adopting the strategy of low carbon development, at the same time, our energy consumption increased by only 1 times, and the CO2 emission increased by 73%. At the same time, our forest coverage increased by 13%, and pollutions, SO2, decreased by 88%. So previously, we are suffering from the atmospheric pollution. We're suffering from this dust, PM10. But now in Beijing, you can see green, blue sky continuously. I think China is benefiting from our strategy. And China is developing green energy steadily. So these are numbers I summarize for you only this afternoon. So you see that new energy vehicles has reached 10 million, almost 11 million new energy vehicles. Most of them are electrical vehicles. So the penetration of electric vehicles by this August has reached 20% in the total car sales. So we are leading. China is leading in this transportation transformation. And then for solar PV and for solar PV generation and for wind power, we have the largest. China has the largest wind and solar power generation fleets in the world. And our total renewable energy power generation capacity has reached 1,100 gigawatts. So the 1,100 gigawatts was the concept. The whole installation capacity of the United States is this number. So 1,100 gigawatts renewable energy power in China equals to the total capacity of the United States. I just give some impression. I said I made this slide this afternoon. That's a Guinness World Record. So China, one company has reached several Guinness world record in photovoltaic. It is complementary of hydraulic power and solar power. And for this, I would say, pictorial, what do you call that? Graphic power station. They use this panel to combine a house, a shape of house. So this gets Guinness World Record. And then in China, we also have a lot of wind power. So for single wind power, singly, for wind power and the PV power, China has the largest fleet in the world. And we are doing more. At the same time, not only the concentrated solar and wind power, we also have we are promoting distributed solar power and wind power in different occasions, integrated with buildings. So on the roof of the residential house and for the public commercial buildings, etc. So this develops very fast in China. So and action speaks louder. So to keep this momentum, to keep our promise, China has made up a whole policy system. We call it 1+N policy systems. So they are basically for actions. So for this head document, we have set up 5 indicators. So there are some quantitative indicators like share of non-fossil energy, energy efficiency, etc. But the first indicator is very important. So that's the level, the extent for this green, low carbon, circular economy. I think easily you can understand me. So we are pursuing the same, the transformation of the whole society rather than by only the single things. So this policy system trying to push that. And then for this, the first document is N policies. We have this the so-called carbon peaking action plan. So it described 10 big actions. And this first one is energy, green and low carbon transition of energy system. So we announced that by 2030, China will install more than 1,200 gigawatts of solar and wind power generation. So this is a very conservative number. So from our study, my students are doing research on that. So we can reach more. We want to reach more, or else we cannot reach our target for 25% of non-fossil energy share by 2030. And then there's a lot of difficulties. So energy storage is critical. So China planned 120 gigawatts of pumping water stations by 2030. So currently it is still small, 60 gigawatts, etc. But in 2030, that's be 120 gigawatts. And there's another document that described the targets more clearly. So by 2030, the target is that non-fossil energy can basically meet the increase in energy demand and replace not only to meet the increased demand, but same time, meanwhile, to replace fossil energy stocks in large scale. So not only the increase one mostly matched by the renewable energy, but the stocks should also be replaced in stock in large scale. So that's the target. And the whole process is proceeding steadily. So by the end of this August, 1 month, 2 months ago, China has made lots of actions. So the renewable energy power installation has reached 1,140 gigawatt, and the share in the total installed power generation capacity reached 46%. So that's almost half now. And about the pathways, how should we do the overall pathways? So I just give you some information. So my Institute of Climate Change and Sustainable Development, we conducted a strategy study between 2019 and 2020. And we invited more than 100 scientists from all over China, from the authoritative research organizations to work together. We started China from economy, from the view of economy, from society development, from the different sectors like energy, industry, building, transportation, and also for important issues as trade, environment, policy, infrastructure, etc. And our basic principle, we advocated that China should go in the direction to meet the target of Paris Agreement. We should realize our domestic economic growth target together with the international targets described in the Paris Agreement, just like this. So we should peak our carbon dioxide emissions before 2030, and then go to pathways, long-term, deep decarbonization pathways to meet the targets of Paris Agreement. And we published 2 books, and this one has been sold more than 40,000. And we are happy that our result is coincidental to governmental official targets. That means to peak carbon dioxide before 2030, and then to reach carbon neutrality before 2060. So which way we can reach is not clear. That the lower, the more difficult. I think you can understand. And now my institution is conducting an upgraded study to describe the pathways leading to 2060. And then especially we focus on the climate target on 2035. And here's a summary about the pathways. So before 2030, peak and further decrease carbon emissions. Around 2035, energy use peaks and emissions decline steadily. So we want to reach carbon neutrality by 2060. So by 2035, we should be ready to have to accelerating decarbonization. So we have a transitional period between now and to peak carbon dioxide before 2030, and then by 2035 we should be ready to go faster, rapidly. I think that's a rough idea. So energy system should go same to this one. And I think here are some targets. So by 2030, the share of non-fossil energy should reach 25%. And around 2050, non-fossil energy should reach 40% up. And around 2060, the share of non-fossil energy in total energy mix should reach 80% to up to 90%. So this is totally reverse of current system. Currently, we have 85% of fossil energy dominated. Then in the future, it will be reversed. Besides the supply side, the demand side should be upgraded accordingly. That should match and cooperate with the supply side. So the basic strategy is electrification. So currently, the electrification rate of our energy, our demand side is around 26%. And by 2060, we estimate that should be around I think 60% or even up. So that's the first strategy. So that means electrification, electrified. To be electrified, that's the first principle, method. And then to use zero carbon fuels like hydrogen, like biomass. So they are decarbonized. So the target is very promising, but we need to realize that it is difficult. So the young generation are expected to shoulder this duty, this mission bravely. The task is hard, I think, because for China's society, for China, compared to the developed countries, so our industrial structure, our economic structure is much more heavy, is much heavier than Western countries. So we have a lot of steel production, cement production, etc. So the economic structure is quite heavy. Second, China is energy system is dominated by coal, so that's very carbon intensive. But here I can give a number. So I started, I keep an eye on the structure of many other countries like the United States. So their fossil energy share is also around 85%. And their power generation, I think 60% US power are from fossil energy. But they use more. The advantage to us is that, over us, is that they have more natural gas. So that's less energy, carbon intensive. We have more coal, but the total share of fossil energy is similar. But our disadvantage is that we have too many coals. They're cheaper for a poor country, for a developing country. That's what we can rely on. And then we are not we are not strong enough in science and technological capacity. And now it become even difficult. So the US is trying to decouple China economy in every aspect, trade, economy, and especially in technology. So that's makes things, that's hinders our process to decarbonize our economy. And besides this, the most difficult part is time. So China, the target is to peak carbon emission before 2030 and to reach carbon neutrality by before 2060. So the peak to the net zero emissions, we have only 30 years. But for Europe, we counted their number. They have if they realize their carbon neutrality by 2050, they have totally 75 years. US has 45 years, but China will cover all the process within 30 years. So that's extra difficulty. And our task is very hard. So as I mentioned that to realize carbon emission level consistent with Paris Agreement target, 2 degree or 1.5 or even 1.5 degree. So, the carbon dioxide emission should be 80% compared to the year 2020. And then to realize 1.5 degree, the decrease of carbon dioxide will be 100%. That's very hard. And that's not all. Because greenhouse gas matters. See, not only carbon dioxide, the all greenhouse gas matters. So besides carbon dioxide, we need also to deal with this non-carbon dioxide greenhouse gas. So if we count that, we need to decrease that part also to a greater extent. So the target are, I would say that challenges are unprecedentedly high for China. And then we need money. So according to the estimation of my organization, ICCSD, the Institute of Climate Change and Sustainability. So I'm the director, I'm the president of this institute. So we've estimated that to realize 2 degree scenario or even 1.5 degree scenario, we need to transform our energy system completely. So the investment is among 100 to 140 trillion RMB. So that's about 2 to 2.5 degrees of total GDP, accumulated GDP between now and 30 years later. So that's higher than EU estimated. But as I mentioned, this will give you the capacity to compete in the green industrial revolution competition. And especially, it will give the chances, opportunities for young generation. So you have a lot of things to do, have a lot of money to make. That's chances. Is that it? So this is a very costly, but worthwhile. That's what the message I want to share with you. And technology innovation is badly needed. So currently, according to the estimation of IEA, International Energy Agency, they mentioned that the technology we need to decarbonize our society is a large proportion not in commercial stage yet. So half are not in commercial stage. So currently we need to use our renewable energy to peak carbon and to decarbonize most of industries. But there are the so-called hard-to-abate industries, hard-to-abate sectors like heavy transportation, like building, and what? Transportation, building, and heavy industry, chemicals, steel, cement. So we need technology. We need to innovate technologies to deal with this hard to abate. So we need not only to transform our energy system by renewables, by non-fossil. We also need to innovate our processes. So basically, there are 3 in China society. I'm invited to give speech. So I say that I don't know how to say that in English. So, we have three silver bullets for all industries in general. The first one is circular economy. So we need to conduct circular economy to decrease the production demand. So we need to recycle our steels. We need to recycle our plastics. That will only when we set up such kind of system can we save our resources and decrease our demand for production, for manufacture. That's the first bullet. Second is efficiency. So we need to increase our efficiency to produce the same amount of products or provide the same amount of service by using less energy. That's second. Then the third bullet is to use alternatives, to replace by alternatives. So such as hydrogen, such as biomass, etc. That means for hard to abate occasions, we need ammonia for navigation. We need electricity to replace our vehicles, etc. So then we need process innovation. We need technologies to have a more efficient, like passive and saving buildings, and then transport. At the same time, we need to increase our ability for carbon sink that can absorb more. So if we have, for example, the plants that can grow larger, if we can change the gene to enlarge our plants, that will be much easier. At the same time, so these are the sectors that are related with the carbon, either emissions or thing. At the same time, digital, information technology in all aspects, digitalization can help a lot. So this is not only an energy system stuff. This is the common course of the whole society and the common course of all disciplines. So every young people have the potential to contribute to this process. And the international collaboration is imperative. So as I mentioned, the IEA published this carbon neutrality roadmap. So it describes that we need to do great change in all sectors like building, transport, industry, electricity. Take electricity for example. It advocates that no building of coal power without carbon dioxide capture. That's called unabated coal power, etc. And then to increase 1,000 gigawatt renewable power annually, globally. So the world should increase 1,000 gigawatt renewable power annually. So that's roughly the total installation. The world each year should increase the renewable power capacity annually equal to China's total installation of renewable energy. And then by 2035, developed countries should realize zero carbon power generation. This is exactly US has planned. So Biden's administration announced that 5 zeros targets as I mentioned, but the earliest one is in the power sector. By 2035, US pledged to reach net zero emissions. But to me, I'm an expert on power generation. It is difficult for them. They are not ready. They are not ready. So they are, as I mentioned, that 60% of power are still from 20 are from coal power, 40 are from natural gas power, and in about 15 years or 13 years, to replace this fossil power fleet is difficult. And the CCS, carbon capture and sequestration, are not ready yet. And etc. So you can see that. So the world to keep 1.5 degree target within reach. So the whole world needs, I mean, as a whole, to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. As I just repeat my idea that developed countries should go even earlier. Then give some space for developing countries to catch up. Only in this way can this target be realized. So international collaboration is imperative. So today we are talking about, so I know there's a lot of international students online and also offline. So I just advocate that international collaboration is extremely imperative. So the mission, it belongs to you, young generation. So I just, as I told my students, I saw there are several students from my group. So how I see you. So I think the contemporary youth has independent thinking and can think outside the system created by adults. You are concentrated, persistent, and promising. I don't know how to say it. Don't compromise with potential, with潜规则. I don't say that. Rules. So just persistent and strong. And all you have to do is to believe that you can change the world. So give full play to your talents, constantly innovate in science and technology. So to strike school, that's not the right way. I think the young generation are expected to use your learning, your knowledge, your innovation to change the world, rather than idling or only worthing. So in science and technology, take actions to achieve green, low carbon, sustainable development. And in China, I always give some message to our students. So this is cited from one of my articles. So my belief, my recommendation is the virtue of people. So that's from our famous Confucius. That's respectful. 公宽信敏惠. That's from Analects. That's record of Confucius saying. So 公 means respectful. 宽 means generous. To include other people, to understand other people. 信 means faithful. 敏 means accurate, industrial. And 惠 means kind to other people, help other people. So that's from Confucius. And from myself, I said that keep curiosity, embrace changes, adhere to virtue of life, believe that, keep that, practice that, and create your favorite career in the uncertainty. The world is not certain at all. So remember, don't throw away your oars when the waves come. There are uncertainties. So the the virtues are something you keep in your mind. You should persist to that. So I still have some time. So before I conclude my lecture, I give more encouragement, more encourage. So maybe you know that in Tsinghua University proposed the concept of a global alliance of universities on climate. So that's GAUC, GAUC. So now we have 15 member universities all over the world. So including 4 universities, Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College, and LSE from UK. And then from MIT, Yale, Columbia, and UC Berkeley from the United States. And then from Asia, we have Tsinghua University, Tokyo University, and the Indian Institute of Science. And in the Atlantic, we have Australia, ANU, National University. And then in Europe, we have a Sciences from France. And then in developed countries, we have a university, Stellenbosch from South Africa. Then from Brazil, we have a University of Rio. So this is a big family. But compared to other alliances, it's not really big. It's more elite alliance. So we do a lot of things. And I am the Secretary General of this alliance. So we have ambassadors. So we have Zheng and Hao Sheng. They are your global youth ambassador. Is that true? Your global youth ambassador. Yeah. So I'm very proud of you. So we have. I would like to call your attention to this global alliance. So we do a lot of interesting things for you, for young people. One thing we are doing now is this Climate X campaign. So we have already have this Climate X leadership training pilot in France given by Sciences Po. So we selected 100 young global ambassadors from all over the world. We have this pilot training, and we have 100 ambassadors. And then in September, we have this Africa Regional Climate Forum hosted by Stellenbosch University. And now we have planned this Global Youth Summit on Net Zero Future 2022. Last year, we have last year's Global Youth Summit during the COP26. So I was in Glasgow. So we have we conducted more than 30 activities by all the universities in 1 month, and then we have a closing ceremony in Glasgow during the COP period. More than 1.25 million youth globally joined our activities last year. And this year we are doing even more interesting things. So our alliance, we are doing this Global Youth Summit on Net Zero Future by ourselves. And we proposed to UNCCC that we should, there's a lot of young people, young youth organizations who are focused and pay a lot of attention on climate change, but their voices are too small, cannot be heard by the right people, by the world. So we propose that we should join their voices together. So we propose the week before each COP meeting should be the Global Youth Week, Climate Week. So this year we planned more than 100 youth organizations to hold activities in the week before COP27. So now more than 100 organizations have joined this initiative. So we are sure that, and then we are calling more organizations to join. And we also get some sponsorship from many famous organizations. So I would encourage you to pay attention and if possible to join some activities. So these two gentlemen will be in Egypt together with me. And our young ambassadors have given their pledge. We can read that. So maybe Zheng can read that for me.
Well, we as a future generation call on global leaders to recall the principle of intergeneration equality and uphold global
Solidarity
and multilateralism. We encourage countries to transition their long-term net zero carbon commitments into strengthened actions for the well-being of our generation and generations to come. We, as international corps dedicated to addressing our climate crisis, call on global leaders to broaden channels for young people to effectively participate in global climate developments. Beyond being observers and voicing out, young people can be capable of making transformational changes with their wisdom and solutions. We, as creators for the net zero future, also call on global leaders to provide more platforms and opportunities to improve the overall competency of global youth. Now is the time to mobilize youth from all over the world to shape our collective future. We look forward to more training programs, employment opportunities, and local engagement for young people everywhere.
Thank you. So the future is yours. The result, consequences will also be suffered by you, by your generation, and your children. So, act now. That's my last word to you. This concludes my lecture. Thank you.